center of Beijing when a man walked to the middle of the Avenue of Eternal Peace.
Well, all right. Welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast, Kevin and Chuck. Today, well, we're going to talk about camp stoves. I guess camp stoves from the perspective of things that you're going to have in your go bag, things that you're going to be able to, kind of take on the, having your vehicle, having your off-grid scenario, even when you're just out backpacking, hiking, any of the good stuff, out just enjoying life. And so, I don't know. There's a lot of cool things out there and different ways to try. Maybe some cool recipes we'll talk about, that kind of stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of great camp stoves out there. And we ended up reaching out to a few companies, and there's some great ones out there. So, Kevin, I know you did a lot of firsthand testing. What struck your fancy? What are you looking for in a good stove, first of all?
Well, I mean, for a camp stove, generally speaking, it's nice to have a nice like propane stove, but you don't want to carry all that shit in your backpack, So I'm looking for lightweight.
Right. So lightweight and small and concealable, right? Something
right.
Not necessarily hide concealable, but out of the way, discreet and tucked in and not taking up your whole pack.
Right. So the best one that I found for that was the Uberleben Stoker stove.
Okay.
Basically it comes with with 6 pieces, and they're all flat, It's basically 6 inches by 6 inches by a ½ inch, and it all slides in like a canvas waterproof pouch. And you slide it out, set it up, and you're ready to go.
Nice.
It all runs on like wood, though. You know what I mean? It's basically you got to collect a good amount of twigs to get, keep that fire going and keep it hot. But I mean, you can just do it from stuff you find around. You know what I mean? You don't have to worry about running out of propane. You don't have to worry about carrying propane. You don't have to worry about bringing any kind of fuel at all. You just set it up and get it going. And it was pretty great. I got to admit, high quality, good stuff. It was about a pound. I was going to say less than a pound, but it's 18 ounces. So
okay,
it's pretty lightweight.
Yeah, no, that's a thing. Something that you can fold up flat, so you can like lay it right against your back or whatever in the pack. You know what I'm saying? Where it's not really poking you. It's not an issue. That's
right.
A great way to go, and something that's just, hey, it's simple, it's straightforward. You just crack it out. Obviously, when you're on the trail, you'd be hard pressed to find an area you can't find twigs and sticks on the ground.
Right.
When you're in the woods. Now, obviously, there's desert scenarios, or if you're stuck on a boat. But I got to say, you start chipping the side of the boat off if it's that bad, right?
That's right. But it's basically, it was a rocket stove, and it worked really well. It worked fast. It was easy to get started. Everything was great. Everything was it was exactly what I was looking for in a wood stove for taking with me when I'm hiking. The other one that I took a look at was City Bonfires. They've got a little stove. That one was different, though. That was more of an urban type of thing. You know what I mean? Because it comes with its own fuel. It's a candle. You can burn it inside. Doesn't produce any bad fumes or anything like that.
So this one's like basically like the frame for a pot, and then like maybe like a sterno can kind of thing. Like that
that's basically how it works. And the cans. This one was really inexpensive too. It was good quality, and it was I think you can get replacement candles for like $25 or something. They weren't very much, and they last about 4 hours. Of continuous cooking, or obviously it doesn't take you more than an hour to cook something, but you can use it multiple times.
Now, what's cool though is like, so you have the apartment in New York City because you're bougie, and when you're fighting off earthquakes or whatever, maybe the power goes out. You could just go on like that back patio, because all of us who can afford an apartment in New York City have a patio outside.
No, you can do that right inside on your
Inside.
kitchen table.
All right,
Yeah,
right
you
on
don't
the
even
table.
have to have space, you know?
Obviously, the Uber leaving, you're not going to just like have sticks lying around unless you're like in Central Park, obviously, because those are the only trees in New York. But
Right.
you'd have, you could like break up the furniture a little bit and feed it in slowly. You take out pocket knife. Are you not allowed to have pocket knives in New York?
No, you can have a pocket knife. It has to be less than 4 inches long blade, so it's not great. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's New York City. That's how it goes.
All right, but I'm just saying these are kind of cool. And actually, the city bonfire is that the
Yeah, city bonfire, and that one was
city bonfire one that you could just crack out and put on the table, and for a power down for short time situation, that's ideal and gets you going and easy. And
right, and they had it came
good
with
brands.
yeah, and it came with little skewers, so you can
Oh,
cook
nice.
meat or
Marshmallow,
marshmallows or whatever it is you want to cook on it. But
little
it's
bit of rat or squirrel, whatever you guys have in the city.
whatever you have, man. Yeah, my cat brought me a big rat yesterday, so that was pleasant. Um, but yeah, that's something you can cook inside. You don't have to have fuel. You don't have to have anything. You have the whole setup right there, and you're eating hot food when everybody else is in the dark, and it's pretty good. Pretty good for indoor use in urban areas. And I mean, you can use it anywhere. You don't have to be in an apartment. You can do it on your back porch if you want to.
Oh, you don't have to be a city person. You can just
No. But those were my two favorites.
okay.
I like to have when I go camping, when I'm not hiking, when I'm going with the family. I'd like to have something that's easy to start up. Propane, little propane canisters. So the Camp Chef Ever stove is a 2-burner stove, propane, and
Okay.
that's a good quality stove. And also I use the Coleman stove. That's primarily what I bring with me if I'm going on a trip with the family.
Those you're a little bit more hiking it in and whatever. That's kind of
They're heavyweight, and you got to
portable,
carry the propane too. Yeah.
right?
So it's not something I would take in a backpack if I was hiking. But if I'm parking, 100 yards from where I'm camping or something, that's easy enough.
Right. So if you were going to be a speaker at Prepper Camp in September in North Carolina,
Hmm.
that's something you might bring to your campsite is something bigger.
Exactly. Like
Gotcha.
that to make your coffee in the morning.
Gotcha.
Yeah. No, I mean that is something though. When you wake up and it's cold out, it's nice to be able to just turn the Coleman stove on and get the water hot and make some coffee and get some eggs, and you're ready to go. You don't have to do any work. You don't have to get the fire going. You don't have to have anything going. You can just set it up and you're drinking hot coffee while you try and poke the fire back to life.
Exactly. I like it. Now, there are a couple of beefier options. And I've seen kind of like I don't know, I would almost say sheet metal, crappy, whatever. But there's a lot of the rocket stoves you can buy. But if they're collapsible, usually they're pretty poorly made. And if they're not collapsible, they usually weigh a ton.
Right.
They're big, substantial. But there are some cool things that, I've seen out there for the rocket stoves. It is a balance of quality and weight, where you're kind of looking for the trade-off. But something for cooking in the backyard, there's a lot of cool things. Now, there
Hmm.
are more aggressive, like people will take stones, cinder blocks, that kind of thing, and work out their own kind of version of a rocket stove and setting up stuff pretty cool. But there's
Hmm.
other ways to go. Believe it or not, like people take like the flat like bluestone or like that and will cook right on it. Just throw it
Hmm.
in the right on the coals kind of thing. And you can lay your food on right there and have ways to go, and that provides a lot of great options for when you're out on the trail. You don't have to carry something. I mean, honestly, aluminum foil, right? Wrapping your food and throwing it in a couple of sheets of foil and throwing it in the coals. It really depends, how on the go you are, I mean,
Yeah.
throwing some foil, what I've seen is people like take like a thin board or something and just wrap it with foil to kind of keep those sheets nice. And I mean, maybe you could fold it and keep it nice on your own. I'm not really sure. I haven't had any luck with that, with folding foil and keeping
And
it
then
nice.
opening it back up, and yeah.
Maybe if you slid it in the pouch where I have one of those Camelback water bladders. So maybe if you laid it in the flat of there, some squares folded.
Yeah, my experience is that the best bet is if you're going out and planning on doing that stuff, is wrapping the stuff up first, wrapping a potato up in foil and putting it in your bag.
So the meals are just ready to go.
Right. You just, but obviously anybody that's played with a campfire knows that you can't just start a campfire up and have nice hot coals. You have to get it going. You have to, let it burn down a little bit and get the real heat going in there.
I gotta say that's where these backpack stoves kind of win out. Is you can, you're cooking in like 5 minutes. You know what I'm saying? If you're adding twigs or whatever, or if you have your own fuel canister right there, you're ready to go. That's not an issue. Whereas when, like you said, you're cooking on the coals, it's a commitment.
Right.
You can have a lot more smoke involved, kind of giving away your position if that's a concern. Maybe you want to be found if you're stuck in the woods. Can't be sure on that one. Or maybe you're in the woods because you don't want to be found. It could go either way. But yeah, I mean, that's where those little ones win out. But also cooking, you can actually throw food right on the coals. You grab that squirrel, you can, now I got a picture, a nice steaks cooking on the coals. But
yeah, that's not a squirrel, but whatever.
If you had a little squirrel, you cut in as slabs, you could, throw that right on there. Or in my case, maybe it's rabbits, right? Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, my experience with that sort of stuff is your best bet is to bring some sort of a pot, some sort of a pan. They always take up a little bit of space, but you can, if you've got a lid on it, whatever, you can stuff your dry socks in there. Whatever, you can fill that space up. They do take up a little bit more space.
Yeah.
And the one problem is with a lot of the pots and pans that you get for camping, they're real lightweight, they're real thin metal.
Yeah.
And so you have to keep that fire going. It doesn't hold the heat like a bigger pan, like a cast iron might hold the heat a little bit.
But backpacking with cast iron is a little bit of a chore.
Yeah, it's not the smartest move.
How cool are you when you got the big Dutch oven? But there's a big but there.
But it also weighs 20 pounds.
Yeah. You're cool. But actually, I was always really happy with the Stanley cook sets. They got a couple of different sizes and varieties of ways you could go on that. And they're pretty awesome for the backpacking and like that.
Yeah, so I'm a big proponent of cooking on the fire. I like the taste of it. I like charcoal better than propane. But propane is a lot easier to cook with. A propane grill versus a charcoal grill, two completely different animals. But personally, the flavor of charcoal, the flavor of campfire is a lot better. A lot better taste for me. One of the best things to cook, in my opinion, on the coals when you're cooking right on the fire with the aluminum foil or whatever, is you want something that's good for slow cooking. Something like my favorite is ribs. I like ribs. You get the ribs, you smear it all over with barbecue sauce and wrap it up in the foil, and then you throw it on the coals 45 minutes, an hour. Yeah. And they come out and they just pull right apart. I like slow cooking a lot of those meats, but the truth is, sometimes I like a nice sear and get it nice and crispy on and off,
Right.
So it's still red in the middle.
Red in the middle and little flavored charcoal on the outside, Yeah, that's That's always. I mean, I'm a big potato and onion fan, and that kind of thing. You know, you cook that down. Um, the
Yep.
you know, one of the guys mentioned the stove light. They make a decent one. You know, I was checking those out. They're pretty cool. The the best in my mind is how cool are you when you can have the ingredients that you have right there available to you, you know, where you're not even backpacking it in, you know,
Hmm.
stuff you're grabbing with the snare or whatever, you know, the rabbits, the squirrels, the things that you're getting on the go. Maybe you shoot something, you know, who knows, you're cooking it up. Having, you know, the leeks or the onions that you're finding on the trail kind of thing, or you know, that you have planted in the backyard, having that stuff available to you. I don't know, I always get like an extra level of satisfaction when it's like, ooh, everything came from my property, you know, everything is right
Right.
here. And
Right.
you know, whatever, I brought the rabbits in and started that, but you get the idea, you know, it's just like, oh yeah, I have chickens and eggs. Well, they weren't naturally here when I got here. I did get some chickens, but it's something that I have, you know, and that
Right.
we've raised and done. Now the latest addition is turkeys. I have torturing me out there, but you know, having that little meat that you smoke and you do yourself and setting up your own stuff, adding that to your eggs that you're cooking on your little camp stove, using the onions and the, you know, the garlic and the things that you've, you know, grown out there and planned for. I don't know. I guess just the satisfaction of kind of self-reliance and building up and knowing that you have a sustainable thing that you're going to be able to keep going no matter what bad decisions our crazy government makes, you know, we're still going to have, you know, stuff going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. I think the best camping trip I went on was about a 7 mile hike,
Mm,
and up in the mountains, and was a big lake there, and just pulling trout out of that
yeah.
lake like nothing. And it was easy to cook. I added a couple of pieces of bacon, so I just threw that in the pan, got the pan nice and greasy, and threw that fish right in there, and it was unseasoned. I didn't have any seasoning with me, but it
Right.
was probably the best fish I've ever eaten in my life.
I like it.
Right
And
over the fire, and fresh right out of the river. It was
yeah, well, if
it
you
was
leave the
nice.
skin on, you kind of get that salty stuff going
Hmm.
on a lot of it, you know, with it, where you get
Right.
that kind of seasoned, you know, plus you get it from cooking. But that is a big thing is, you know, bringing a little seasoning with you isn't a
Yeah.
bad way to go.
Yeah. A little bit
Again,
of salt
long
and pepper
term on
goes a
your
long way.
property, garlic, that kind of stuff,
Hmm.
learning to recognize what nature has out there is awesome. But just the same, bringing a little baggie with stuff is pretty cool too. It's funny that it never occurred to me, but my wife decided to make garlic powder this year out of our garlic. You know, she
Hmm.
hydrated it and oh my god, it is so different in the potency of the little like garlic powder you get from the store versus, you know,
Right.
using our homemade stuff. And it's like, oh my God, it's like
Hmm.
totally different. Plus, when you see the disturbing things of the, you know, the way it's made in other countries, you know, when you have the made in China, whatever, and what's in there, and you're like,
Right.
yeah, homemade natural sounds pretty good. Although
Yeah. Yeah.
you give up a decent amount of garlic to get, you know, your jar full of garlic powder.
Right. Right. It takes a lot of garlic to make garlic powder, right? You gotta take once you take all that moisture out of there, it shrinks down quite a bit.
And I gotta say, it was effort to get the moisture out of there. Like it was still kind of clumpy, and you know,
Yeah.
like where you're just keep fighting it, like you're in there with a fork, you know, breaking it up again every once in a while because of the
Right.
moisture. So it's tough. I mean, I'm sure had we, you know, ran it through the dehydrator or whatever a few more times, we could have had better success. But
Hmm.
there is something for bringing good seasoning. And I guess I just brought that up, one, because it's awesome. And I'm amazed that she made awesome garlic powder. But
Right.
two, that, you know, bringing spices and the little extra niceties can go a long way. You know,
Right.
having salt set aside both for curing and whatever in your preps and, you know, and for seasoning will go a
Yeah.
long way. And those of you that love sugar, maybe that's a way to go for you. You know, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know. When I go on hikes, I'll usually make something. Um, lamb chops or duck or something like that, and I'll put it in a Ziploc bag, put it in with a marinade, and put it in the freezer the night before I leave. And that way it's nice and frozen for the whole hike up. And then, by the time you're ready to cook, it's just about thawed out and it's been marinating. So it's ready to go. It's nice to be out on a hike in the middle of nowhere and have like, a nice deluxe gourmet meal, after all that walking. But, to me, that's one of the great things about hiking and camping, backpacking is, planning ahead and having a good time,
Right.
It's
Well,
bringing a bottle of whiskey is a lot less weight than bringing a 12-pack of beer. But
yeah, that's good planning, Kevin. You're smart.
yeah, that's how to do it. And those bottles are heavy though. You got to dump that into a big flask, and then you're ready to go, man.
Flask.
Then you're ready to go. You're hammered, and you're eating a good meal, and you're gonna have a miserable day the next day, being hungover, trying to walk back down the mountain.
Do we need the Survival and Basic Badass podcast flask? Is that
I think that's a good idea. I think we need to get something like that together. Yeah, I like that idea.
That sounds right.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one of the things is the more you're out camping and hiking and doing these things, the more you realize what works and what stuff you're carrying in that's just useless. All the fancy, little tricks and whatever. Learning how to filter water and stuff over the life straw or whatever is kind of a good thing. But again, you never know what situations are going to present themselves. Maybe boiling water is not in the cards. Having one of those pumps where you can just pump right out of the creek in fill in all your water containers. That's pretty awesome. That might be the right trick because carrying in water is never fun. But again, you need to know.
And it can be hard to find clean water. You know what I mean? You might run across a spring, but I mean those are few and far between.
All signs point to unlikely.
Right?
As long as if you know the trip or that this park has little spigots every mile or whatever where you can go in and just turn it on and good to go. Well, that's cool, but maybe that's not the case, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know I've been to a lot of places where accessing clean water is not easy, and having to boil water takes a lot of energy, a lot of fuel. You have to get the, get the fire going just right and get that, get the right heat out to get that water boiling. It can be, a project in itself. So, always bring plenty of clean water and have a filter of some sort with you. But that's my opinion. As far as the stoves go, the Uberleben was my favorite for sure.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to put some links in the in the show notes in the bottom of the thing so you guys have it and can check those out and see what's available to you because they're both awesome. I mean, it really just depends on your application. What are you trying to do? If you're hanging out with your buddies in that, in the backyard and you want a little, something, but you're not in the neighborhood where you can have the big roaring campfire, it's one thing if you can build the 5-foot tall bonfire and whatever, but still even that, you don't want to, you're not cooking marshmallows on the one that you can't get within 10 feet of,
Uh-huh. Yeah. So I did a few, on my honeymoon, we were out camping, and I had to set up a tripod, and I had a few people come out, hike out and meet up with us, and I had a few big steaks that I cooked on there, and that was really something. That was good. It was like the big broiling steaks, the big 3-pound steaks, and
now, how did you work the tripod? Was it like a grate that's hanging off it, or?
Right. So it's a grate that hangs from the center of the tripod over the fire, and you can adjust it, up or down. And, obviously it can be a lot trickier to cook meat over a fire than on the stove. You know what I mean? You've got to work the fire so it's just right. You don't want to be burning all your food and, you know, you want to have some nice hot coals that you can put the food right over top of without, you know,
Right.
without burning everything to shit. And it can be a tricky, you know, it can be tricky to do it, to get it
A
right.
delicate
Yeah,
balance, right?
yeah, that's right. And so with those tripods, when you work it that way, it's a lot of up and down. You know what I mean? You don't want to have a bunch of you know, little twigs in there burning real hot and you know, burning all your meat. And you don't want to have a bunch of old logs that are just kind of like, you know, wet and steaming and, you know,
Slow and low, yeah.
slow and low. So you have to have a good balance, and you know, it can take a while to get a fire where it's big enough and hot enough that it has coals that it can burn down and
Right.
still maintain the heat for a while.
And that's the thing. It's all about finding the right application for what you're into and, you know, what you're after. But again, that's the, you know, go out and do it. The more you're out there hiking, camping, and experiencing stuff. And I got to say, when you go out on like these trails and different things, you meet people and you see the other tricks they're doing. There is a ton of things that you can do with spending no money or little money. You know, even a tripod, you can work out things where you're hanging stuff for cheap, you know, or nothing, you know, even just a great, like, heck, you could just take an old oven rack and make your own, you know, tripod.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I mean, there's different ways to go. And maybe you cut it down a little smaller with the grinder in the backyard. You know, you don't need to spend $1 million to, you know, find the right setup. You need to just kind of use your head, kind of think, you know, a little bit of what, you know, what could work for you. You know, you could easily take an old oven rack and cut it to where it's going to fit just inside your backpack and be,
Right.
you know, one more thing. Now, obviously, you don't want that metal grate laying right against your back when you're hiking in,
Right.
but you might be able to cushion it and spread it out a little bit and set up the right thing. You know,
Yeah.
these are the things you learn over time by doing, though, is, oh, you know, that was, you know, grating on my back the whole night like a cheese grater. And I didn't, you know, like that hiking in. But oh, when I wrapped a sweatshirt around it or my towel that I brought, you know, then it wasn't so bad, or, you know, whatever. You find the tricks that work.
Yeah. When I was yeah, in my experience too, is when you go out, you're never going someplace where nobody else has ever been. And people are always leaving all kinds of trash and shit behind. And you can always find something, you know. There's been probably half a dozen campsites that I've gone to where the fireplace, you know, was already built and set up.
Yeah.
And there's just an old fucking grate sitting there someplace, you know what I
Right.
mean? Somebody had brought it in, didn't feel like hiking it back out.
And
Um,
that's pretty cool. You
yeah,
know, I mean, that's, and how cool are you when you're leaving for the next guy? You know, I know they're like, oh,
right.
nature and leave it as you found it and
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah. Don't leave
Whatever.
garbage. Don't be a
Yeah.
jerk, you know, but just the same,
Mm-hmm.
got something useful for the guy, you know, maybe they appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
just
You can
put
always
that.
find something. I mean, I always bring in a trash bag and always carry out a lot more stuff than I bring in. But,
Well,
you
Kevin,
know,
you're just a good citizen. I mean, we're all proud of you when, you know, you
but, you
go
know,
out.
there's sometimes when I'll go out someplace and I'll think like, this place looks too clean. You know what I mean? It doesn't look right. It doesn't feel right. You feel like somebody needs to bring a bag of empty beer cans and dump it out so that, you
Is that
know,
what you do
it looks a little
sometimes,
bit,
Kevin?
it's a little bit more homey, you know, a little
Well,
bit
do
more
you
lived
bring
in.
in empty beer cans and dump them out, or do you just leave?
Yeah, they're empty when I bring them.
That
Yeah.
doesn't sound like you, but
Mm-mm.
you know, maybe.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. I'm sure if you're listening to this podcast, you're the type of person that likes to go out in the woods. But if you're listening, you don't go camping. You can't remember the last time you went camping with your kids, the last time you went by yourself or with some friends. Get your shit together, man. You need to
Hey,
get out in the woods. You need to, you know, listen to some Johnny Cash and get your life together.
exactly. Johnny Cash, I don't know how you wouldn't change your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's actually one of the things. It would be awesome if you put in the comments, like maybe your best camping trip or where to go that, you know, you've done. I know the national parks are just awesome and, you
Mm-hmm.
know, huge. You know, I heard it's really great to go out and pet the buffalo. I heard
Mm-hmm.
that's a big thing that people, you know, do.
Yes, you're supposed. And have you ever see a grizzly bear?
Yeah, they're good too.
They love to have their chin scratched.
Yeah.
So check that
a
that
nice
out. If you're
belly
ever in a
rub.
national park and you come across an elk, you should go and try and feed it some grass and see what happens.
Yeah, that actually, petting the buffalo might be a bad idea. That would be one of those. I don't know if you guys been listening to the show for a long time, but one of those Kevin's gonna get you killed scenarios.
Yeah.
Those times that Kevin killed people, that would be
Mhm.
with the grizzly and the buffalo belly rubs.
Yeah.
But I think that's maybe the new T-shirt for the Survival and Basic Badass podcast. Give a grizzly a belly rub.
Yeah. They love that shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that only sounds right.
And they love when you bring extra food for their babies and try and feed
Oh,
the
baby
babies too.
food. Feed
They
the
love that.
babies.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, if you're out there, I mean, honestly though, the woods are all around you, man. You
Turns
know,
out.
it's everywhere. It's everywhere. Get out there. Get out there. Get some fire. And there's something like innately inside humans that just makes you happier being around a fire, you know?
It's the call of the wild. No, it is relaxing. Like, I don't know. Sometimes it does. Like the next day, you're like, "Ooh, I feel dried out." Sitting next to that smoke and
A
whatever.
little smoky.
But
Yeah.
but if you build a good fire and set something up awesome out there, it really is pretty great and gives you some kind of peace of mind and relaxing. I don't know. I've had nothing but great experiences being outdoors and camping and getting close to nature and enjoying it all. And like Kevin said, it doesn't hurt if you bring a bottle of whiskey and make everything a little bit better.
Yeah, that's right, man. That's
That
right.
could be wrong, but anyway. So I'll see if I can't work out some kind of shirt about petting the grizzly and see if we can't hook you guys up. You can see some of the other great ideas that we've had at preppingbadass.com or check out gear on there.
Mm-hmm.
And we have some cool stuff there if you guys want to support the show and help us out. One, always don't forget to like and subscribe, leave reviews. That stuff helps so much. But
I think we'll have to do that. We'll have to work on that petting the grizzly bear flask for hiking. So maybe we can get some hiking flasks going. I'll see if I can find some company that'll do that for us.
That only sounds right. But also patreon.com/preppingbadass. You guys have questions, concerns, things you want to talk about. Let us know. And I have actually some good ideas. I think we need to do another gun episode as well.
Yeah. All right. I'm in.
You want to questions, concerns, email us at preppingbadass@gmail.com. And we will talk to you guys next week.